Hello class, this is a video tutorial on basic trigonometry, part 2. In this video, we'll be learning about trigonometric ratios. The three basic trigonometric ratios are sine, cosine, and tangent. These are shortened to sine, cos, and tan. These trig ratios always require an angle when written, as they calculate the relationship between specific pairs of sides in a right angle triangle. So sine of some angle will equal to the opposite side from this angle divided by the hypotenuse. Cos of some angle will equal to the adjacent side from the angle divided by the hypotenuse. And tan of some angle is equal to the opposite of the angle divided by the adjacent of the angle. I'll demonstrate to you some quick ideas about this. So sine of some angle is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. So if I were to draw a triangle where we have 30 degrees here, the opposite side from that angle must be 1, and the hypotenuse from here must be 2. So 1 over 2. You can test this in your calculator. You can type in sine 30. So I'll demonstrate here. So if you type in sine of 30, it'll give us 0.5 or half. Okay. So here's another demonstration. If you do cos of 60, it is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 60 is our reference angle. Adjacent is next to it. And the hypotenuse, is the hypotenuse. If you take a look, 8 over 16 is equal to 1/2. But if you do cos of 60, it's also equal to 1/2. Okay, so these are the ratios of sine and cos. And lastly, for tan, if you were to draw, let's test it out first. If you do tan of 45, you would get 1. So it means that the opposite from this angle divided by the adjacent from this angle must equal 1. So it would be 4 over 4. Or it might even be, let's say, 10 over 10, because 10 over 10 is 1. Or it might be any two numbers of the same thing. So for example, 20 over 20, or whatever it might be. And this is true for any sort of angle. So for example, sine 15, if you test it, it's some ratio, 0.258819, and so on and so on and so on. That must mean the opposite from that angle divided by its hypotenuse must equal 0.2588. So in this case, 25882 to 25.882 divided by its hypotenuse of 100. It gives us that ratio. Let's do this as decimals, so take a look. It's very close to each other. So here we go. Cos 15 is equal to 0.965925. So that means the adjacent from this angle, so 19.318 divided by its hypotenuse, should equal the same value as cos 15. So the big emphasis here is you need to remember that sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan equals opposite over adjacent. Okay, so now let's place these given values in each triangle using the trig ratios. So remember, sine of some angle is opposite over hypotenuse. Cos of some sort of angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan of an angle is opposite divided by adjacent. I'll demonstrate to you in this first one here. So in this triangle, we have the angle alpha. So if I were to do sine of alpha is equal to opposite divided by its hypotenuse. So in this case, it would become 4 over 5. That is sine of alpha is opposite divided by hypotenuse. So now if I were to do cos of alpha in this triangle, it's adjacent, which is right next to it, 3, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 5. Okay, and lastly, if I were to do tan of alpha, it's going to be opposite, which is 4, divided by adjacent, which is 4 over 3. Okay, so I hope that gave you an insight into this. You can pause and give the rest a go here. So you can go ahead, give it a go. Find sine, cos, and tan of the given triangles here and the values. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this one now. Zoom out so you can see. So for this case, we want sine of beta, cos of beta, and tan of beta. Okay, so remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite of beta is x. Hypotenuse is 7. So sine of beta is x over 7. Cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent from beta is 4 and the hypotenuse is 7. So cos beta is 4 over 7. And tan is opposites over adjacent. So opposites from here is x and adjacent is 4. So tan beta is x over 4. All right, so hopefully that gave you the answers for this one. So now, let's now do the last one where we're doing sine of 46, cos of 46, and tan of 46 degrees in this given triangle. Okay, so let's go. So sine is going to be, sine 46 is opposite divided by the hypotenuse, in this case is going to be 7, so 15.2 divided by z. Cos of 46 is adjacent over hypotenuse, so it's going to be y over z. And lastly, tan 46 is opposite over adjacent, so 15.2 divided by y. Now, now these are very, very important and it must be remembered. Now, the most common thing that's been going on for, I'm not sure exactly how long, is the following, I guess, mnemonic to remember this. It's so, ka, toa. Written like this. So is opposite over hypotenuse. Ka is adjacent over hypotenuse. And toa is opposite over adjacent. So, so ka toa. Sokatoa. This is how we all seem to remember this. Okay. Now, with this last example, You can go ahead and pause the video. I'll go through this very quickly. In this example, you're given a limited number of pieces of information. All you have to do is figure out which one we have to use. Do we have to use sine, cos, or tan, depending on the information given? So for example, in this case, we have, from our reference angle, we have the hypotenuse, so h, and we have the adjacent, a. So which one uses adjacent and hypotenuse? So remembering it, so, ka, toa. Which of these uses adjacent and hypotenuse? In this case, it's ka, which is cos. So in this case, we have to use cos of 54, because that's the angle given, is equal to x over 25. Okay, so let's pause and give this next one a go, or give the rest a go, because we're going to go through this very quickly. So from here, we have some sort of, from the angle, we have the opposite, and we have the hypotenuse. So in this case, from the angle, opposite, and hypotenuse, that's sine. So sine of y is equal to 20 over 40. That is the correct ratio to put it in. Let's try for the next one. From here we have, from the angle, we have the opposite. So let's write it down, O. And from here we also have the hypotenuse. From here we have the opposite and hypotenuse again. That there is saw, which is sine. So sine 27 is 18 over z. All right, let's keep going from here. Once again, from our angle, we have the opposite and we have the adjacent. So O and A. So ka toa. Toa is opposite and adjacent, so we have to use tan of A is 5 over 13. From here, from the angle, we have the adjacent, because it's right next to it, and we have the hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse. So ka, that is going to be using cos of 50 is 2.3 over b. And lastly, from here, from the angle, we have the opposite, and we have the adjacent, because it's right next to it, and it's not the hypotenuse, because this one is the hypotenuse. This is A, that's so ka toa, that is tan of C 15 over 17.2. All right, so I hope that gave you an insight into the trigonometric ratios of sine, cos, and tan, so, ka, to, wa. Remember, this is a extremely important part of trigonometry. So make sure you remember these ratios, sine, cos, and tan. Hope to see you in the next video, and best of luck.